So I feel like every few years I see the same exact case pop up over and over again. Now, obviously, it is not the identical case, but since I don't remember the details, these cases are all strangely alike. And granted, the main factor is a baby being killed, so that is what remains in your mind. Therefore, anytime a baby's killed, it reminds you of all the other similar cases. Regardless, it is a very alarming trend because I do feel like there's one big breakout case about it, and then we're talking about it again, and then that gives attention to the cases that got less attention, and then we see how big of a problem this actually is. Anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. Today we're going to be talking about this article, Student Accused of Killing Newborn and Throwing It in Trash Sent Chilling Texts Hinting at Deadly Plan. A Florida college student allegedly killed her newborn baby in a dorm bathroom and then threw the body in the trash months after texting about her birth control preference being Plan C in killing it, according to authorities. Brianna Moore, 19, allegedly suffocated her baby girl soon after giving birth in April last year in a University of Tampa dorm bathroom, according to Hillsborough County prosecutors. She'd sent texts 8 months earlier suggesting that killing a baby was her preferred method of birth control while discussing abortion and pills, according to newly released court records obtained by the Tampa Bay Times. Let me be extremely clear. There is no excuse for murdering your child. Do I think women should have access to health care and so we don't get to this point? Yes. That being said, I don't know if this baby could have been saved. And what I mean when I say that is, if the person who's having the child is mentally unwell and is okay with killing a child, I really think that's a problem that exists before the child even exists. Does that make sense? Kind of like a murderer doesn't have to kill someone for them to have those mental problems already in their head and for them to actually have a problem they just haven't acted on. As much as I would like to think that having health care for women specifically, anything in regards to their uterus, honestly, but anyway, it's important. I just don't know if that would have solved this particular problem because I don't want to throw out a diagnosis like, this is sociopathic behavior, this is psychotic behavior. I don't know what this is, but I think it goes further than just not having access. Does that make sense? I also think we need to make an important distinction here. While we, and I think the majority of us, think this woman is responsible for murdering her child because she did murder her child. I think we can agree on that, I hope. Kind of afraid to find out. We also have to take note that the messages were supposedly sent 8 months earlier as opposed to when she had the baby. If she was 1 month pregnant or around something like that, she probably did not know when she sent those texts because it's really hard for me to believe that this person went to get blood tests, blah, blah, and even then, it's supposed to be like 12 weeks-ish. So a month, I really doubt she knew she was pregnant. So these jokes could have been simple, dark humor. Do I think it was simple, dark humor? No, because she ended up doing this. But I'm saying sending those texts, I don't think is necessarily an indication. It only becomes an indication once something happens. Because there are plenty of people who send really fucked up things and say really fucked up things, but they don't act on them and don't do them. Therefore, it wasn't a red flag. I think we need to make a distinction between humor that's connected to some mental issue, like here, versus humor that's just dark and potentially offensive to some, but still is humor. This is the person we're dealing with, in case you were interested, this person here. Hey man, sometimes you need a plan C, Moore texted an unidentified man who allegedly replied, Plan A was condoms, Plan B was the pill, Plan C was to kill the kid. Again, we return to me having a dark sense of humor. You know, I do have one. It's just like a lot of the things we're seeing people kid about, the Epstein list, murdering babies. It's just really hard to see the humor in all of this. Then again, maybe I'm also sensitive to these kinds of things because it seems just like a nightmare situation to be pregnant when you don't want to be. So like, I don't think I can just laugh about it because it seems really fucking horrendous, to be honest. Plan C is my favorite, Moore replied, according to the text found by investigators in her phone. Moore's attorney, Jonah Dickstein, confirmed the texts were legitimate, but said they were being taken out of context by prosecutors and were part of a general discussion about birth control and abortion. And that's, like I said, the context really does matter. At the same time, you know, I think a lot of people don't really have a sense of humor about this. And I think more people than we might guess are open to dark humor, but what the dark humor touches is really the sensitive topic. It's not really the joke you make, it's what it's about, right? What people find digestible as jokes, I find are typically things that either happened a long time ago, anything that is very current day and is still something we're having trouble with, if you will, I don't really think it's gonna fly. The person she messaged was also not the father of her child, and she did not yet know she was pregnant, the attorney said. And that's what I thought. I didn't think she knew she was pregnant. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier about hindsight. This could be a massive clue, or it could have been a joke. Turns out it's a clue because she ended up acting on it. The teen was arrested in her home state of Mississippi on October 18th, 2024, and is set to face trial on July 22nd on aggravated manslaughter and other charges according to court records. She claimed that she woke in pain on April 27th, 2024, and rushed to the bathroom after noticing her pants was wet, then seeing she had given birth. It wasn't moving, so I felt for a heartbeat and I didn't feel one, she reportedly told police at the time, saying she then took a nap for more than an hour, waking to find it was still not breathing. Moore told campus police the blood was simply from her period. However, the dead baby was found the next night in a trash bag wrapped in a bloodied towel. I have been in quite a few emergency panic situations, and as much as you go into panic mode, I think there are usually two routes we see happen. There's someone that snaps into action and is like, usually the answer is calling 911 or the police. There's not really much else to do unless you can drive yourself. Or you go into hiding what you just did mode. One of these makes sense, and the other one I will never be able to justify. I understand that these are the two outcomes, but I will never understand how something like this can happen. So your baby, you just kind of had your baby while you were sleeping, according to this. So you have your baby while you're asleep. You wake up, you fall back asleep after seeing the baby has no heartbeat. Now, I don't know what her plans were with the baby, but honestly, it's really hard for me to imagine that you had no shock whatsoever, that you weren't freaked out, that it didn't send you fucking adrenaline immediately to be like, holy shit, there's no heartbeat. I find that so incredibly odd. Whether you wanted to keep the baby or not, whatever you wanted to end up doing, it's very hard for me to believe that as a human on an instinctive level, you're like, oh shit, looking for a heartbeat and you don't find it, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna nap. Now that to me is something along the lines of, and I'm not saying it's this, psycho behavior. You see that there's no heartbeat and you're like, you know what, let me get another pillow so I can sleep. And where did you put the baby? Was it just right next to you while you were... I have so many questions I don't really want the answers to, but I am so confused at all of this. Also, there was campus police, so even if you were afraid to call 911, you didn't know what to do, you could always call campus police and have them handle everything else. You call campus police, you call your whatever campus emergency services, and they can do everything from there. They can do the heavy lifting of calling, explaining where your dorm is, taking you, like, you have resources, and that's the thing that fucks me up, is that you didn't even try. You willed this baby to die the moment you felt no heartbeat, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna nap. You couldn't even call a friend and put, this is not fair, but put the responsibility on someone else so at least this child had a chance. Like, I don't understand also what the purpose is of keeping a child if you, I'm assuming, did not want it, and you weren't obviously gonna give it up for adoption, or else you would have tried to save the child. Or why did you not seek to, well, first of all, prevent this in the first place, or potentially get an abortion? I don't think everyone's built to be a parent. I really don't. And this is an example. A medical examiner found the baby had died from asphyxia due to compression of the torso with rib fractures and had several broken ribs along the spine and small hemorrhages in her lungs. In a pre-trial examination, a forensic neuropsychologist suggested Moore might have had a cryptic pregnancy where she either did not know or was in denial that she was pregnant, the outlet said. Moore came to the University of Tampa in August 2023 with a $30,000 scholarship and had received excellent grades, according to the outlet. Honestly, I really don't give a fuck about the scholarship, but okay, cool, I guess. She faces up to 30 years in prison if convicted of manslaughter charges. I'm confused as to what the designated plan was here, because also, okay, I don't know what this girl weighs, because there are people who are really thin and they can hide being pregnant kind of because they're really thin or they don't have a massive bump or whatever, but there's so many things here where I'm like, how do you hide this? Because obviously, if you can't hide it and one day your baby bump is kind of gone or kind of deflated and people notice that after 10 months or a year there's no baby, they're going to ask questions, right? So I'm also wondering how logistically this worked out. But aside from that, I mean, this is one of those cases where if she had done everything she could, if she had called 911, if she'd called campus police, if she'd tried doing CPR, blah, 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 you know, I think all of us would have some empathy because it would seem like an accident. This seems like multiple steps were taken to almost ensure the baby didn't live, right? To ensure, like, I'm not going to call anyone. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to wake up later. I'm going to see if it's alive or not. And then what? We're going to go with the vibes, roll with the punches, throw it in the trash, and just peace out. I do think this person should be put in some kind of psychiatric place because none of this is normal or okay. But I really wonder what got her to this point, because to go 9 months and potentially, like the article said, pretend you're not pregnant is wild. Like, it's unimaginable to me, and that's why I'd want something like this to be studied to say, how does this exactly happen, right? Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.